you want me to go through resistance first before you walk through a step? Do we usually do that? Seems like it. It does, doesn't it? For some reason my head felt like it was set time. Okay. Resistance is a very normal part, your yellow section here. Resistance is a very central, normal part of the process. If there wasn't resistance, like we talked about this morning, if there wasn't resistance, I would have already been able to say, oh, my soul, cut it out. Right? There are clearly places in the soul that want the problem, or I wouldn't be in here. So resistance is a normal part of things. And you have a couple ways to address resistance. One of those, on page 30, notice here on your flow chart. And when you come out of opening prayer with the muscle test, you would just say, is there any resistance that we need to deal with? Now, the reason that there can already be resistance, even though in your conscious mind and the client's conscious mind, you don't even know yet what you're about to work on, right? We invited the Spirit of God to search through, to mark our steps, but we don't even know what they are yet. The reason that there can be resistance is because the deep soul does know what those steps are that just got chosen. So there can be resistance even when our conscious minds aren't on the game yet. So there are two ways to handle it. You have your two options here in yellow. You have either collarbone statements or resistant emotions. Collarbone statements are just, they're like Saturday Night Live, where you say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, people like me. Collarbone statements are just support statements that happen here under the collarbone. So find the bone that pokes out there, go about an inch beneath, and you make sort of a little medium pressure soft circle there under the collarbone. This is where you make a collarbone statement. So if collarbone statement test is what you need, you follow your line over to your box here of options. You have statements like statements about safety or change or deserving. Your top one and your bottom one are special ones. The top one says, my sub-C admits, right? Sub-C short for subconscious. So wherever you are in the protocol, let's say you know you need to forgive, and you ask, do you need to forgive yourself? No. Do you need to forgive God? No. Do you need to forgive somebody else? No. Do you need to forgive me, the practitioner? No. Can we see who you need to forgive? No. You're in resistance. So before you go into really deep resistance work, a really simple way to undo it that will often be enough is just your admit statement. To go right to the collarbone and say, my subconscious admits who I need to forgive.
And you have them say that?
The client says that. Just 3 times. Collarbone statements are 3s, just like your fingertip ones are 3s. So the client would say, my subconscious admits who I need to forgive. They'd say that 2 more times, and that's oftentimes enough. You can go back to the muscle test and say, so, Alan is unresponsive. You come back to muscle test and say, so now can we see who you need to forgive? And we'll get, yes, you can. Okay. So is it yourself, God? It's God. Okay. So I didn't mention the fact, by the way, the God thing in forgiveness can really be a hiccup for some people because God is never wrong, right? So how can I need to forgive God when God is never wrong? Well, because God is never wrong, that doesn't mean that I don't hold him as wrong. My heart can still be holding him as wrong, bitter, angry, accusing, even though he doesn't deserve it. So I still might need to say, I forgive you for, even though he didn't need to be forgiven to start with, but my heart needed it. Same way with, I might need to say the sentence, God forgives me for. So when God tests in forgiveness, you want to ask which way, you forgiving God or God forgiving you? Because both of those happen all the time. So I might need to speak so my heart can hear, God forgives me for whatever it is. And that's not a moment where I'm asking forgiveness. Forgiveness is accomplished at the cross. It's more like I'm parenting my own soul, letting my soul know I am forgiven. It's okay. I don't have to think I'm in trouble with God about whatever this issue. So when God tests, you want to say, you forgiving God or God forgiving you? And then that'll happen there at the fingertip, the middle finger. So we were somewhere. We were in resistance. So if a collarbone statement test, you follow on to your next box, and you'd ask which of those ideas. So let's say that Kurt and I are going along, and he won't tell me who he needs to forgive. So I say, so, do you need a collarbone statement? And I get yes. So I say, so that collarbone statement, do you want one about admitting, willingness, safety, functioning, deserving? Oh, deserving. So I'd say, so come here, the collarbones, say, I deserve the change that God's offering me.
I deserve the change God's offering.
Or he wouldn't bring it up. Something like that. I deserve the change, or I deserve this to be healed, or I deserve freedom from this symptom, or whatever it might be. There's not perfect language, but the gist of deserving. I deserve it, or God wouldn't offer it. Yes?
Is that also 3 times?
Always 3s, yes. So your sentences for forgiveness at the fingertips are 3s, your collarbones are 3s. Okay. And then you tap it in. So once he says it 3 times, he's going to tap it in, the side of the hand. And then I'm going to say, so, now can we get back to where we were? Can we see who we need to forgive? And I'm probably get, yeah, you can. If I get no, you still can't. I'm still in resistance. Then I'm going to stay here in yellow. And I'm going to say, so, you're still resistant. Do you need another collarbone statement? Or do you need a resistant emotion? So I might need any number of these collarbone statements, or I might need any number of resistant emotions. A resistant emotion you find by flipping over your chart. And you say, so, this resistant emotion, is it in yellow, white, blue, top of blue, bottom of blue? Okay. You find and clear resistant emotion the same way you would a trauma emotion. The only difference is that the resistant emotion is immediate. It's right now. It's what he's feeling right now about doing the work. Okay? Whereas most of the time you're using the chart for trauma emotions back in my past somewhere. You know, most of the time we know what age we're working on, what trauma, right? But a resistant emotion is this minute right now. What his subconscious is feeling here in the moment in our interaction about the work. Okay. So, and you find and clear it the same way. So you might need to touch the points. You might need to forgive me for asking him to do it. You might need to forgive God. Just a second over here, we had somebody needed to forgive God for the particular work he has planned for this weekend, right? There's all kinds of different, anything that matches context. So when you're in resistance, you may need any combination of these two, but basically you just hang out in those 2 options, a collarbone statement and a resistant emotion, until you get the muscle test that says, we're good to go. Back into whatever step we left off on.
So can I create a collarbone statement?
Yes.
As a therapist that, like, let's say they test for willingness, but then I create a statement surrounding willingness that doesn't fit for them?
Doesn't fit for them?
Yeah.
If that were, so she says, what if the sentence that I fashioned isn't the one they need? If that's the case, then they would just test for still being in resistance and I need another one. It would just go that way.
And it might just show up for willingness again.
And it might show up willingness again, yes. Yeah. For instance, let's say you got willingness and you had him say, I'm willing to look at this content. When really what he needed to say was, I'm willing to make the change this will make. Right? Those are 2 very different ideas, right? So it would just test again for willingness. Or it might test for change. Change is on there too. Okay? So here on this page are some examples of how the sentence could sound for these different ones. So I told you how the top one, the admitting one, is kind of a special one, because it's one you can always drop into first, and it'll oftentimes be enough, and you don't have to go into the whole rigmarole of resistance. You can just do a real quick admitting and be past it. Your last one's another tricky one. It's another really good one. I accept myself. There is something, oh, I stole your chart. I'm going to do that a lot. There's something paradoxical about a collarbone statement that says, I accept myself completely exactly like I am with the symptom. There's something about accepting the self with the symptom that backdoors a lot of natural resistance. So that's always a good catch-all as well, anytime you get stuck in resistance. I accept myself completely exactly like I am, even if I always have depression, or even with this anger, or even if I never get past this addiction. There's something paradoxical about that, the self-acceptance with the problem. That's what that bottom one's about. So, notice here you have your yellow, you have your green, you have your purple, right? Those are your general sections. Green here, titled set. The set is home base. This is where you live. This is the central building block of the Spotman protocol. It stays the same all the way through masters. A set will always be a set no matter what all we change. So a set consists of one single moment in time, the emotions that were stored in that moment, and the significant vow or lie that was adopted in the moment. A set is a single moment in time, all the emotions felt and stored in that moment, and the vow or the lie that was adopted. This is the central building block. Everything else on this chart is serving this green section, serving the set. Everything serves the set. We deal with resistance so that the set can get done. We do algorithm work later tomorrow to serve the set. Okay, so this is your home base. You live here. You're going to be here in green 80% of the time. Okay. So notice how your first chart, your first box under the title set says age and central emotion. Okay. So when do you know you're doing a set? So it would look like, what's your name tag? Vivian. It would look like, well, I might not be able to stand in front of that. Vivian and I, we come to session, she explains to me what she's here for. She says, I have such and such a symptom, this is the history of it. I might ask some questions around it. If I'm a mental health professional, whatever your normal intake procedures are would be the same. If you do a genogram, do a genogram. If you do an MMPI, whatever you would normally do. For those that are non-professionals, you just want to hear whatever is relevant to the client, whatever she feels matters to this story. So she tells you about the symptom, its history, how it works, what triggers it, what she thinks caused it. Okay. My personal preference, my style, I always want to get a sort of the basic weaknesses of parents. Give me mom's basic character weakness and dad's basic character weakness. That helps the way that I think generationally. But with your style for that will come about. So once we have what she's here for, we're going to go together in opening prayer. And I'm going to agree with her in prayer to bring her request before the Lord. And we're going to ask that he would arrange us in all those ways we talked about this morning. We're going to ask that he would take us to the roots of the symptoms she brought. And we're going to invite him to do anything different if that's his prerogative, his priority. When we come out of opening prayer, we're going to trust together that he did just pick a place in her database. And our first question will be, is there any resistance to deal with? Maybe there isn't, maybe there is. Either way, we're going to hang out in our options if we have resistance until we get the test that says we're ready to do the work. Now, the work will either be in the form of set or algorithm. So if set is what tests, my first question is, what is the age we're working on? Now, the way to find the age is to start at conception. There's no magical door at the vaginal opening that makes you a human. We have thoughts, we have emotions, we have decision, we believe lies, we make vows in the womb as well as after. So conception to birth is its own time period. Birth itself usually gets its own category for us because birth is such a unique trauma. Birth to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and so forth. Once you get a 5-year, 10-year category, maybe you'll get up to 20, and you'll say 20 to 30, 30 to 40. Once you get it down to a 5-year category, then get it down to the actual age. So if the muscle test said 20 to 25, I'd say, okay, so 20, 21, 22, 23. Maybe the muscle test gives me 23. Now you have to understand something special about age in the subconscious. The subconscious counts you 9 months older than you do. Right? Get there? Okay? So whatever age tests, you want to ask the client about that and the previous age. So if I got 23 to test, I'd say, so tell me about 22, 23. Where were you? What were you doing? What was going on in life around then? Because your subconscious counted you 23 when you counted you 22. With me? Mm-hmm. Okay? So whatever age test and the previous age is the one you're going to ask about. Okay? So once I know my age, I want to know my central emotion. Now the central emotion is the one of the group. Let's say I felt 8 emotions total. It's the one of those 8 that best represents the entire theme. That best represents my core, most central emotional reaction. So I might have felt 8 different things, but it was mostly about blah, 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 whatever that was, okay? So we want the age and the central emotion. Flip to the back of your books, back of your manual. In the back of your manual, you have little note sheets. They look like this. You're going to log. These are for your notes, okay? So notice how you have a place there for the age and the central emotion, okay? So you'll write down, this was the age, this was the central emotion. Later on, the central emotion is going to be an important clue for you. So that's why you want to separate it out from the rest of them. Now once you have the age and the central emotion, you're going to go ahead and clear it. You're not going to go find the rest first. That's a very common question. So as soon as you have the central emotion, you're going to clear it. So the person will touch the points. They will think about the emotional content at that age, whether they remember something or not. Very commonly, at the very first emotion, you don't know necessarily exactly what you're working on. Sometimes a client will say, oh, that age, that emotion, I know what that is. That's when my husband left me, or that's when I had my 3rd baby and almost died, or that's when we moved to Oklahoma, right? Someone might know exactly, and if they think they know what it's about, you do that. So you say, okay, think about that. And with the strong muscle, you say, so that thing you're thinking of, are we on the right track? And you either get yes, we are, or no, we're not. Okay? So if you get yeah, we're on the right track, you'd say, well, that tests well. We'll see where it goes. You'll hold it loosely. Okay? A muscle test is not a fact. A muscle test is a pointer. It's an imperfect tool, so we always hold it real loose. Weak.
You just went yes in a
Weak
different
is
direction.
yes. Like nodding. Weak is yes. Strong is no. Okay. It's flipped from the way that most of muscle testing is done, but that's because it's more practical here. Okay. So weak arm is giving me a yes. So it would look like it would look like I'm getting a whole bunch of no, yes. Alright, so if he thinks he has a gist, I'll check that with the muscle, but even if it tests well, we're not gonna camp super hard on it yet, okay? Because he might be off base. So we're gonna clear the emotion, and then after that, we'll go to our next box. So your next box here, the big green one, it says how many more emotions were in this set. Now, there will always be at least 2 more, as many as 10 more. There will always be 2 to 10 more. You're never going to get a central emotion and no others, or a central emotion and only one other. There will always be at least 2 more. So you want to know how many more. So once you get your first emotion cleared, your central cleared, you'll say, so how many more? Are we 5 or more? No. 4? 3? 3 more. So then I would write down on my notepad, 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Or make a little note by 1, 2, 3. So I know that's how many more there are. And then one by one, I will find and clear each one. Okay? The same way. So for each one, I'll say, okay, so for emotion number 1, are we yellow, white, blue, green, red? Okay? So we find and clear each one in the very same pattern. Now, you don't need to know by central emotion exactly what you're working on. But loosely by emotion 2 or 3, depending on how many total, you need to start having a gist. So let's say you have, after your central, it tested there are 8 more. Well, 8 more means you're working on a fairly chunky trauma. Okay, that wasn't a real mild deal for this person. Okay? Whereas, if you had a central emotion and just 2 more, you're working on a milder kind of a trauma. That's obvious, right? So if you had done your central and you know you have 8 more, you might be able to get away with even emotion number 4 before you really got to narrow it down. But if you've only got 2 more, you're going to want to get a gist pretty quick. Because what you don't want to do is, you don't want to clear all the emotions in the set with no context. Okay? You don't want to get down to the vow and the lie and say, gee, we cleared 7 emotions and we have no idea what they were about. Okay, that's not useful work. Okay? It's all right if by emotion 1 or 2 you're like, well, I'm not sure. It could be about this, could be about that. But by the time you get to 3 or so, you need to narrow it down. And the way you narrow it down is, if the client has no idea at all, then the practitioner is going to check into general life categories. So, and those life categories need to apply to the developmental stage as well. So for instance, if I'm working at 2 years old, I'm not going to ask about romantic issues, right? If I'm looking at 47 years old, I'm not looking at attachment. So I mean, depending on where you are in life stages, you're going to be asking about general life categories. So if I had 16, what are your big life categories at 16? Peers, romance, individuation, right? Rebellion, body image, identity, all that stuff, all that is big deals at 16, right? If I'm looking at 65, right? I'm not looking at things like body image, right? At 65, I'm looking at totally different life categories. That might make sense. So depending, at 2 years old, I'm looking at attachment, individuation, power struggles, right? At 6 years old, I'm looking at, I'm first going to school and I've got separation issues. So depending on your life categories, you're gonna categorize it down to like a major chunk. So let's say we were at 25. I'm gonna say, so 25, we have no idea. So at 25, we'll be looking at something about work, something about peers, something about family of origin, something about health, something about finances. Money comes up, right? So see how I looked at just like the major life categories at that age, okay? Whereas if I'm looking at 4 years old, I'm not asking about work. But I am going to ask about siblings. I'm going to ask mom, I'm going to ask dad, I'm going to ask preschool, I'm going to ask health. Okay? So like any of the major life categories. And once you get a life category, generally it will usually be enough to jog a person for an idea, this or that. Yes?
Like Eric Erickson's developmental stages, those are crises. If you don't make it through that, you could be 50 years old and not have gone through that identity issue. Mm-hmm. So that could still be an issue here, right?
Yes. Yeah, more so the more you're coming from Erickson's frame. So like you as a practitioner would find that sort of thing more than the one next to you if you're really bringing in Ericksonian kind of frame. But I would say generally no.
Let's just take him away.
If we forgot about it.
Just say that somebody never really went through and established an identity, and now they're age 50.
Yeah.
So that still could be an issue.
Yes. And every practitioner, by God's design, it's a good thing. Every practitioner brings to the moment our own unique frameworks. We all have ways we tend to see things through, right? Like I'm going to tend to see personality disorders, whereas somebody next to me is going to tend to see power dynamics, and somebody else is going to tend to see attachment, right? So we have our different lenses that are sort of our pet lenses that we generally see things through, and those are good, those are useful. God will bring you the people who need your lens, even if it's Erickson. Yeah, so that's a good thing, those different lenses, and go ahead and lean into that, and let him work through it, let it be used. Okay, is this one mine? I didn't steal yours? Good. Okay. So when all the emotions are clear, and by the way, I want to reiterate, by the time you get done with all of them, you need to know the gist of your context. So don't call us over and say, we can't figure out the lie. And I'll say, okay, tell me your context. Don't tell me, I don't know. Because way earlier, you needed to have said, okay, what are we working on here? By emotion 3-ish, okay? And get it down to a gist of what you're on. Okay, and then when it's time to find the thou or a lie, you have a context already to tune into. And we'll get in a second to thou or lie. But before we go there, Heather's going to give you a demo of what it looks like to get that far. Okay, come on up, Miss Heather. Heather is a rock star. Give her a hand. I could banner you, but I don't have a chart. I can see if they have one up front.
Let me see if there's one behind this door.
Yeah.
See if there's no line.
And then we set up the fire. Your whiteboard? Hold on.
Who wants to volunteer? Second, right here. Actually, you've been a client before, though. Should I let someone else? Have you been a client before? Why don't I let you do this? If I do another demo, you'll get it, okay? Okay. Well, while she's looking for a whiteboard, I'm just going to go ahead and do the setup for her, okay? Lord God, thank you. Oh, you know what? She's recording this. Pick her microphone. Let's do it. Lord God, thank you for this opportunity to. That's her microphone. She's up.
So we gotta plug it here?
We heard you clank, clank, clank.
Really? My feet?
Your microphone.
Microphone's
Do you want to use that? for
That's
the
funny
demo?
because I was about to go, I'm lost. I couldn't find your store to come in.
We'll use that for the signature.
We tried to find the right part. One time, Mike got left on going to the bathroom.
Everybody knew.
Yes, they did.
There's been other mic mishaps. Lord God, thank you. Oh, she's really I'm going to say thank you 100 times. Lord God, thank you for this opportunity to work with Vivian, for the plans you have for her. And Lord, we just, we come before you and we invite you to pick the place in her where you want to go. We invite you to break our will and line us up with your will, so that everything in us wants what you want today. We ask, Lord Jesus, that nothing in either one of our hearts would get in the way. If there's any resistance or collusion between the two of us, any of that kind of stuff, Lord, we just ask that you would deal with that you would speak to our hearts, especially for Vivian right now, that you would give her courage and strength, willingness and openness to follow your lead today. And we thank you for that. I ask, Lord, for an extra measure of courage to do this up here in front of everyone today. Just give her peace of mind and trust in you to take her to the best place for her at this moment. And we thank you. Lord, if there's any warfare, any kind of threats of the enemy or plans of the enemy against this work, we gather all of that up and we put it under your feet. We ask you to dispose of it. We ask you to fill us with your spirit. We ask for an anointing from the Holy Spirit for power and love and wisdom. And we ask, Lord Jesus, that you would stand between us and the enemy as we do this work today. That you would assign all the extra backup that we need. And we thank you for that. We thank you for your love, and we thank you for the cross and for the Holy Spirit. It's all that you do for us. Thank you, God. Okay, so, let's see, so we're starting with the resistance. Do you need a collarbone, a resistant emotion, in yellow, white, blue, green, red, top, middle, left emotion, middle thoughts and feelings? Is this at pituitary, thyroid, forehead, back of the head, left temple? So muddled thoughts and feelings, left temple for resistance means that there's some muddled thoughts about where God's going to take us, how she feels about that, and because it's in resistance, it's an emotion she's feeling right now about the content. Okay? So thyroid, left temple. So I want you to think about just feeling kind of muddled about these emotions and the thoughts. Okay? Alright, so did that emotion clear? Yes. So now I'm going to see if she has more resistance or if we're ready to go do the set. Do you need another collarbone for resistant emotion? So she has another resistant emotion. My shirt keeps touching on your pinky. Is that resistant emotion in yellow? Top, bottom? For some reason yellow is not the best of my memory. Okay. Living through others, over responsibility, self-conscious, obsession, egotism. Is this left temple, right temple? Stomach, spleen pancreas, left side, right side. So it was right temple, right? So right here, right here. And so just think about how this is going to affect like how you feel about yourself. Okay? How you see yourself. Okay. So egotism, did that clear? Yes. So next, do you need another resistant emotion, a collarbone? Can we get to the set? Okay, so now we're going to the set. So we've done 2 resistant emotions and she didn't need a collarbone. She could have though. It could have been 2 collarbones, 1 resistant emotion, could have been any combination. Alright. So now the set. We're gonna ask the age. Is it conception of birth? Shortly after? 0 to 5? 5? 4? So 4 years old, so that would be 3 or 4. You told them about the 3 or 4 thing. Okay. And the central emotion, is it in yellow, white, blue, green, top, bottom, anger, irrationality, frustration? So feeling frustrated around the age of 3 or 4. I'm going to ask the points in a minute. Anything you know about 3 or 4?
When I was 3 or 4, I didn't even know if I was a boy or a girl. I didn't know my parents.
What do you mean you didn't know if you were a boy or a girl?
I was living with my grandmother, who pretty much treated me like I was a thing.
Oh.
So I didn't know anything about anything.
Okay. And you didn't know your parents? You hadn't?
No.
Okay. When did you meet them?
I met my mother when I was maybe 4.
Oh, okay. So you met your mom
I'm
around
not
the time.
sure, but I know this lady visited sometimes, but I didn't know she was my mother.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay. All right. So did you? Well, let's see. So you did meet your mother then around 4. You just didn't
I
know
guess
she was your mother.
Maybe before, I am not sure because I don't remember. I think she visited a few times, but my first memory of her maybe was around that time.
Okay.
3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Something like that, maybe 4.
Did you stay living with your grandparents?
It was just my grandmother.
Just your grandmother? So you stayed with her the whole
Yes.
growing up? Okay. So,
Not all growing up, until around the age of 4 or 5, I guess.
okay.
But
So
I'm not sure because
what happened at 4 or 5?
My mother, whom I have not really met but seen a few times, not knowing about mothers or fathers, got married, and I went to live with her and her other son. So I have
Older son or younger son?
younger half brother.
Brother. How old was he?
He was 1 year younger than me.
1 year younger than you? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's possible that you met your mother at this time, or it's possible that towards the end of this you might have even gone to live with her.
Yes.
And did you stay with her then?
Yes.
Okay.
I stayed with them.
With your mom and
Mother,
stepdad?
father, because apparently they adopted me. It was in France, so I guess it's different. And there was no, I guess he adopted me as he married her,
Okay.
but it was not like a big deal. I don't know how it was done.
Okay. After you moved in with your mom, did you have a relationship with your grandmother?
My relationship with my grandmother when I lived with her was a relationship where I was treated as a thing, not as a person.
Right.
So there was not a relationship really to start with, not like secure attachment
Right.
thing. And I guess I saw her, yeah.
Okay.
I guess my mother and my father went to
Okay.
visit her sometimes during the weekend, but there was no relationship.
Okay, okay. So, frustration could be, we could be looking at frustration of being your mother and then not being able to stay with her, or this could be the frustration of the different household and all of that. So we're just kind of gonna hold it loosely right now. We see all the stuff that was going on. We'll see like what seems to stand out more for you as you're doing the emotions, and then we'll see what the other emotions are to pinpoint it.
And I didn't really say it to them, but I'm sort of implying, but as the emotions come out one by one, they sort of paint the picture. They reveal what it is you're looking at. So sometimes it's not so clear emotion 1, but by emotion 3 you have a theme going. There's a pattern you can see, you know.
Right.
So you just sort of watch it and let it paint its own picture.
And let's say after we do the central emotion, she says it tests for 4 more emotions. By the time we get halfway through those emotions, we need to pinpoint which trauma it is so that she has more intention to figure out the vow and lie at the end. So right now we want to hold it loose, but halfway through we need to start narrowing it down if it doesn't become obvious through her own heart or through the Holy Spirit. Okay? All right. That's you're okay. So this frustration, is it left side, right side? Is forehead, back head, left temple? So right liver gallbladder, left temple. So think about being that age and feeling frustrated. Okay. So frustration, did that emotion clear? Yes. So now, now we've done that first part right there, the central emotion and age. And this question always comes up afterwards, like it's hard for you guys to remember after you leave here, but you always clear each emotion as you get it. So now I'm going to ask how many more emotions, but we're going to do each one individually and clear it as it comes up. Okay? So central emotion cleared now. Is there more? I like to ask if there's more than 5, and then if not, go down. Okay? Is there more than 5 emotions? Is there 5? 4? So 4 more emotions. Is the next one in yellow? Top, bottom, living for others, hopeless, apathy. Is that right? Yeah. Entitlement, out of control, low self-esteem. Is this left side, right side, stomach? Okay, so stomach, forehead, back head, left temple. So your stomach, left temple. And I want you to think about
Low self-esteem.
yeah. Think about feeling low self-esteem at that time. Okay. Did your brother, he always lived with your mom?
Yes.
So you were kind of new to the family?
Yes.
Okay. So that emotion, low self-esteem, did that clear? Yes. So that emotion cleared. So we move on to the next emotion. Let's switch. So you're getting colors. Is it in yellow, white, blue, green, top, bottom? Anger, personality, frustration, aggression. So now in aggression you have those little descriptions. You'll notice. So then we're going to break that down. Is it sexual aggression, controlling aggression, violent aggression, competitive aggression? Violent. I think because.
I'm kind of shaking too.
Yeah.
in the
I was
office.
like, I can tell. You're doing okay though?
Yes.
Okay. So is it violent aggression? Is it competitive aggression? So competitive aggression. So that might speak to, we might be working on moving back in and competing for mom's attention with little brother or something like that possibly. What do you think of when you think of competitive aggression?
She was pregnant at that time too with brother number 3, and she put me to work all the time. And I know that my father wanted to. She confessed that to me a few years ago. He wanted to hold me on his laps or play with me, but she would stop him from doing that. So I don't know about that because I
Why would she stop him from doing that?
Because she's messed up. She's not.
She didn't want you to have that attention, do you think?
No,
Or
she. Okay, so my mother disliked me because I was born by accident. My mother is a person that told me all my life, whether that I was ugly, that I was dirty.
so this competitive
that-
aggression might be between. This might be mom's competitive aggression.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So competitive aggression. Is this left side, right side?
Sorry, Pinky.
It's right side. Is it forehead, back of the head, left temple, right temple, top of the head? Oh, top of the head. Okay. So is this mom's? Yeah. So she's feeling mom's competitive aggression when she moved in. Mom didn't want to share the female role.
Yeah.
Does that make sense
Yeah,
to you?
it makes total sense.
Total sense.
Yes.
Okay. So right here, top of your head, think about feeling mom's competitive aggression towards you. So competitive aggression, did that emotion clear? Do you need to forgive yourself? Forgive God? God forgives you? Forgive me? Forgive someone else? Do you need to forgive mom? So she needs to forgive mom. So you'll notice that as soon as the emotion test did not clear, I didn't ask, does she need to forgive? I just said who you need to forgive, and I went through the list. Because you'll want to do it that way. Alright, so I forgive mom. Tap on me.
I forgive my mother
For her competitive aggression.
for a competitive aggression. I forgive my mother for a competitive aggression. I forgive my mother for a competitive aggression.
Competitive aggression, did that clear? Yes. So that emotion cleared. So now that was number 2, right? Out of the 4? That was number 3? After we got the central, and then I always think of the next emotions as their own things, even though they're part of it. So yeah, so 2 more. So I think we're here at the second emotion or the third emotion, second after the central, and we pretty much pinpoint what we're dealing with here, like her frustration about her relationship with her mother, and then the competitive aggression that she felt with mom, and she resonates with that. And so we're just, what was the first of the set after frustration? Low self-esteem. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to you.
She was abusing me emotionally and from.
Well, you definitely had a rough start.
Yes.
to not be validated as, a child of God. So this is, I can see why God wants to do this, in you and to heal that, So the next emotion after. So wait, did I ask? Did the competitive aggression clear? Yes. Okay. So there's a chance that the competitive aggression would have needed more forgiveness. Maybe she had to forgive her father for not overriding mom and giving her the attention she needed. So it could have been more. She could have needed to forgive God. All right. So competitive aggression cleared. So the next emotion is it yellow, white, blue, green, red. Is it top, middle, bottom? You're making me feel bad for you because you're shaking so bad. Are you okay?
I know. Yeah, I am okay. It's just weird.
It's the Holy Spirit.
Yes. I'm like this.
All right. So bottom red, is it grudging, shut down, depleted, deprived? Is that pituitary, thyroid, heart, adrenals, small intestine? I hardly ever get there. There's something else usually tests. Small intestine, is this forehead, back of the head, left temple? So belly button, left temple, and think about feeling deprived.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, so deprived. That emotion clear? Yes. Okay, so we have one more. Is this one, you're doing okay?
Oh yeah.
This one is yellow, white, blue, green, red. Is it top, lost and vulnerable, insecure, abandoned, love unreturned? Love unreturned. Is this pituitary, thyroid, heart, forehead, back of the head, left temple? I know I'm going through it pretty fast, and you will too someday.
Oh.
But for demo stakes, I'm just going off. So heart and left temple. So I want you to think about kind of love unreturned, meaning that you really wanted that connection with your mom, but she didn't give it back. Okay. Okay. Love unreturned. Did that one clear? No. So, do you need to forgive yourself? Forgive God. God forgive you. Forgive me. Forgive your mom. Forgive mom again. I forgive mom.
I forgive my mother
That it felt like she didn't love you.
that I felt like she didn't love me. I forgive my mother that I felt like she didn't love me. I forgive my mother that I felt like she didn't love me.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter which hand. Okay. Did that emotion clear? Do you need to forgive yourself? Forgive God. I forgive God
I forgive God
that I felt unloved.
that I felt unloved. I forgive God that I felt unloved. I forgive God that I felt unloved.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys could see this, but as she was tapping, she worked her way up to that knuckle, and we really want to try to keep our clients right on the cuticle area.
So you want me to do it again? Okay.
I mean, it's important, but you only did that right at the end. So. All right.
She
Yeah,
didn't clear
I
it.
think she tapped it in.
She
She did.
Thank you.
I thought she did. All right. So now, did that emotion clear? Yes. So that emotion cleared, and bow and lie.
All right.
Okay. Sarah's going to explain bow and lie, and then we will break it. Okay? So you just want